Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hacking the Hustle. This is your host, Benji Sklar, and I'm really excited to have my dear friend Jordan Smith on the podcast. What's up, Jordan?
Yo, what's up, Benji, man? Good to see you. Long time no see. It's great to see that face. I haven't seen it in a minute, so it's great to see you. I'm excited to be on the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Of course, really excited to have you on. So, Jordan, a little background on him. He is the manager of partnership marketing at Professional Sports Partners based in Houston, Texas.
Yes,
Jordan,
sir.
Jordan to me is the friend who knows most about the business behind sports. He grew up with me in Houston, Texas. We played football together in middle school, high school, and then he went to Syracuse and then has been working in Houston in the marketing and sports industry since graduating in 2014. And I really feel like, to me, Jordan is the guy to talk to about how the industry is being impacted. Not sports, the actual physical aspect of it, but the revenue transactional side of the industry. So let's just jump into it. Jordan, what's going on? Where are you in the world? How has the coronavirus impacted your day-to-day life?
Well, as you can see, it's a Good Friday. Happy Good Friday. But normally I'd be in the office right now, but I'm in my humble abode in my
Mhm.
living room, working from home. So obviously the coronavirus has impacted where I'm working from. But overall, it's definitely changed the landscape of the sports industry for a big turn. Which
Mhm.
I it's tough. Like obviously, I'm passionate. I love sports just like a bunch of other people in the world. And having an adjustment period where there's no sports at all, it was a roller coaster. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie, because you go from having ESPN showing live sports on a daily basis and generating that content to now like companies, they don't know what to do when they get their
Mhm.
sports. Like for instance, they're doing virtual tournaments going on like for video games. It's a whole different type of world nowadays where you're used to having all this sponsorship income in the sporting world where people are going to games and seeing the sponsorship value behind brands, where now it's non-existent because there's no eyeballs at a live sporting event. So for
Mhm.
me right now, I work for a small sports agency in Houston. It's called Professional Sports Partners, and my main goal behind my job is to create sponsorship revenue with partnerships throughout different sports platforms throughout the country, whether it's a stadium naming rights deal or just in-game iridium sponsorships that you see like for signage wise when you're at a Rockets game. If you see the Toyota Center brand, we'd be a company that would be selling similar inventory like that. Then
Mhm.
just in general, where you are, let's say, enjoying an activation of an event, like we work as a brand management company too as well, where we're working with a Papa John's or a mattress firm, where they're interacting with fans and generating content and data from being at these sporting events. But without having these sporting events, they can't get that data, so it's
Yeah.
different. So it's a whole new world without sports. But we've been adjusting to it. I mean, the working for a smaller agency, it's definitely taking a toll for sure, where there's not as much money coming in. So we got to
Mhm.
figure out different ways to be innovative. And with the nowadays, innovation is key. And we've been utilizing a lot of virtual worlds. I know for your company, you've been doing online events. We've been talking to our clients and like, hey, how can we still value your partnership deal with a virtual world? Whether
Mhm.
it's interacting face to face on Zoom with an athlete, and having it sponsored by a mattress firm, or having it
Mhm.
sponsored by the American Cancer Society or something like that. So that you just got to get really creative with the world right now, because it's a whole different type of atmosphere out there in the sports world.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Do you
Yeah.
feel like people who are average ESPN, SportsCenter consumers who don't have an interest in the esports world now because of the coronavirus, they're taking an interest in the esports industry, even though they weren't at the beginning?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm one of them. Before I really didn't pay attention to esports, but I've known that it's a big part of the future of sports. But like I mentioned earlier, there's literally people that are streaming on ESPN. Last night, I know they had the quarterfinals on ESPN2 of professional NBA players playing NBA 2K, and
Wow.
like people are watching it live on ESPN. That's the value of the esports world, where they're
Mhm.
watching. Technically, I mean, it's the closest thing like that viewers are getting to live sports, and it adds that extra element of excitement because they haven't seen live competition before, and or
Mhm.
not before, but in the last month or so. So it's something that at least gets the viewers excited, thinking like, hey, this is a form of sports, and it's also a new way to interact with these athletes to as well through watching them play esports. And I know recently that Major League Baseball, they took a similar style with what the NBA is doing, and they're going to do an MLB The Show virtual tournament too as well, where they're getting one player from each team, and they're going to have a baseball tournament, and it's going to be streamed live where people can watch it. So it's a crazy time in esports where I think it's only going to elevate them to the next level where they can take over. And, I know Houston does have an esports team. I need to start following them a little bit more so I can
Mm-hmm.
get some intel and see if I can help with that world. But, yeah, I
Yeah.
think esports is definitely here to stay for sure. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Like, I know some people are even betting on sports, like on simulated computer games,
Mm-hmm.
I know up in New York, or not New York, but in New Jersey, close to you, you can just go to New Jersey and place a bet on sports. And like people, obviously the gambling industry, Vegas, it's taken a toll as well, especially sports gambling. But I know for a fact that like some people, they're legitimately betting on esports games. It's a
Mm-hmm.
simulated computer game. People are, going up against it. And that's just crazy. That's just crazy to show how much the e-games world has changed. It's
Yeah.
a whole type of alternative to the, passionate sports fan.
It's fascinating. Well,
Yeah.
let's put the hat of a brand on, and
Yeah.
let's say you're head of branding for Chase or Verizon, and you want to get your brand out in front of the esports community. Do you think it's worth the 100 grand, 10 grand, even a million to have that deal where your logo is on people's screen and people are zooming in and watching Stephen Curry talk about whatever he's talking about, but you have your logo in the bottom right corner? Like, is it the same as putting your brand at a stadium?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different numbers wise, but I think you got to look at it as a new tactic with what's going on in the world right now. I know a bunch of companies are adjusting their marketing plans where they are, like they're adjusting their budget where it's like, hey, we were spending money on a sponsorship deal with the MLB or the NBA, but now there's no guarantee for any games. So why not tap into the esports world where we can shift some of
Mm-hmm.
those dollars where people can virtually see your brand and it's associated with an influencer, an athlete that is of, a high importance level that people can, kind of relate to and feel excited about. And then it's also just another way to get your brand image out. Like now during these times, it's all about brand awareness and still staying in touch with your, target demographic and, your community of followers. So without innovating and being creative during these times, you don't want your target demographic to forget about you. So I think associating yourself with esports and throwing some dollars if the money is there to put your name behind a sponsorship on the esports level, I think it's worth it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they're watching the game or watching the esports game, they can the fan can click on the logo and it takes them directly to the website. Or maybe there's like a virtual chat where like if Stephen Curry is playing NBA 2K and he's doing it live, fans can maybe chat with him after the game or at halftime saying like, hey, what do you think about this player? Hey, what do you
Mm-hmm.
think about the NBA going on right now? So it's just another
Mm-hmm.
interactive way for people to get involved with a brand. So I say, yeah, do it. And then also, it's also another way to track it or track your awareness. I mean, because with esports, you can see who's all viewing the sporting event, so you can
Mm-hmm.
see like these are the amount of impressions that are being generated from an esports level. So you can see, hey, if the Chase logo is there on the bottom right, that, hey, there's 100,000 people or X amount of people that viewed your logo right there.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they click on the logo, it's even better where they can, where they know that, hey, this impression was generated because they clicked on the right or the bottom right corner and clicked on the Chase logo and it took them directly to the website.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to where you're at a live sporting event, it's all about the eyeballs. There's no way to guarantee that someone said or saw the Toyota Center sign, at Toyota
Yeah.
Center. But when it's esports or when it's in the virtual world, there's a way to track it a little bit easier. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
think it's
there is
a
more
good bet.
data to be collected. It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's change topics. What do you think is going to happen to the NFL, the NBA when coronavirus does end and we all can go out back outside and go back to these public venues? How is the season, the actual calendar going to be changed? What's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be a huge adjustment period. I mean, our company right now is actually working on a survey to talk to local sports fans just to see like their opinion once the virus ends. Are they going to feel safe going to a sporting event? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that you got to look at when it comes to this situation. Right now there's not a vaccine, so even if things are cleared for the coronavirus, people might not want to go to a sporting event unless there's a vaccine. or unless there's a way to say like, hey, this arena is safe, because I think people still aren't going to feel comfortable at times going to an event with a massive amount of people. So I think arenas are going to have to adjust to it. Like they might have to still go by the 6 feet rule at arenas when you're waiting in the concession stands or walking around in the stands. Then also another thing is, maybe there's partnerships with like healthcare partners where they establish hand sanitizer stations throughout the arena. I think that's something that's going to be implemented into a lot of arenas, and also a little bit more of cleanliness with bathrooms and just keeping the arena a lot more clean where people can feel safe being at a sporting event. But for now, for this season, it's looking like a lot of the games, like they might not be played with fans. It's a crazy environment. I know the MLB right now is talking about having fanless games only in Arizona, where all the teams would be stationed in Phoenix and they would only play all games at the spring training venues that are in Phoenix. So that could happen. So it's going to be an adjustment, not knowing if you can even go to a sporting event. So it should be interesting. But I think all sporting events will continue to happen. I know NBA is looking at like a June start date. MLB is looking around June too as well. And then I think NFL will hopefully kick back up in August. But it's definitely going to be a shortened season for all those major leagues. But I'm excited when it does happen. But it's definitely going to be an adjustment period. And I think we got to look forward to it. But we also got to know that like sports might not ever be the same. But it also could be the other level where it's like, hey, I've been missing on sports for the last 2 months for the most part, and now I can't wait to go to this sporting event. But you don't know. You might have that passionate sports fan that's ready to go, and you might have the person that's being a little bit more cautious and is going to stay on their couch and just watch the game live and be happy to have sports on TV.
Yeah. What about sports is so entertaining? Like I played sports growing up, but I'm not a sports fan. I don't really watch sports. I don't have favorite teams like you do. What about sports do you feel like other people don't get?
I think it's the connection that you can have. Like me going to my first sporting event, like going to the Astrodome at like age 3 and 4, that made me a sports fan for life. I was like, holy cow, this is incredible. Like you just being around the fans and seeing the players interact with the fans too. It was a crazy level that made me a sports fan for life. But I think another big factor is also that sports is live, and it's the one form of entertainment really that you can say that no one knows the expected outcome for it. Like when you look at a movie, like the director, the actors, they all know what's going to happen. When you look at, TV shows, same thing, like Tiger King, all those guys that were in Tiger King, they knew what was going to happen at the end in the documentary. But for sports, it's live, and literally everyone at the event, participating in the event and viewing the event, they don't know the outcome of what's going to happen. So I think that factor where it's like anybody can win, no one knows that, the ending to this game or what's going to happen, that takes it to the next level where it's like, hey, this is something that you're watching where anything can happen. It's not scripted, it's unless it's the WWE maybe, but other professional leagues, you literally don't know what's going to happen. And that's an exciting part for me. And then just the ability to kind of watch your heroes live in person. Like for me growing up, like watching the Astros, seeing the Killer Bees, like Biggio and Bagwell. The first time I ever met Craig Biggio, I was in awe. I was like, oh my God, this dude is my hero. Like, So it's just that interaction, being able to, to associate yourself with some of the guys that you look up to. It's pretty incredible. And nowadays with social media, you can tweet at these players and interact with them, and like having that ability to do so, it's a game changer. And I think that can make you a sports fan for life. And then that's also another thing, like we talked about earlier with the virtual world, where it's like, hey, if brands can connect with athletes still and get them to do like a live chat or like a sponsored happy hour or something like that, or just figure out an innovative way to connect with their followers and fans. I mean, it goes a long way, because if an Alex Bregman came up to me or messaged me on Instagram or hit me back up on Twitter, I'd be like, holy cow. Like, one of my favorite players just responded to me, and it goes a long way. That makes you a fan for life. So
for sure.
That's how I feel about sports,
How did Kobe Bryant's passing impact the sports world?
Oh man, that one was tough. I remember exactly where I was when it happened, and I didn't want to believe it. It was honestly like I've been saying Kobe was the start of the terrible 2020. Like when Kobe passed, I was like, oh man. But now if you look at all the events that have followed after it, it's been pretty devastating. But Kobe, I mean, obviously he was more than just one of the GOATs of basketball. Like he was a big community member, great family guy. Like he had so much impact in the game of basketball, and the guy was also a genius. Like Kobe, like he spoke multiple languages. I think he spoke French, Spanish, Italian. Like that guy, like he actually was an incredible person. Like me, like watching him play, it was exciting, fun to watch, but also at the same time, he was a huge Rockets killer. So me being a big time Rockets fan, I was like, oh man, Kobe, like he's good, but he ain't that good. But now I look at it, it's like, wow, push all the competition aside with the Rockets, but this guy was literally one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game, and he's also a good person and like an amazing human being, and it had so much impact on players in the past and in the future too as well. It's pretty crazy to see just like kids like or that were rookies maybe a couple years ago that just had the moment to associate themselves with Kobe. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Just hearing all the stories and like all the athletes that like Kevin Garnett, like he's been telling stories about Kobe. Like even celebrities like Kevin Hart told a Kobe story the other day that was pretty crazy about the time when he was hanging out with him back in the day. Like this dates back to high school when they're in Philadelphia. So it's crazy to see all the athletes and celebrities and influencers talking about Kobe and the impact he had. He literally was more than a basketball player. Like he was a genius. The guy had an Academy Award. He won an Academy Award. This is the crazy part.
Crazy.
So like I look at him now as a role model, man. Like someone that I want myself to be when I'm at that age. I want to be a family man. I want to be doing more than just, what my career is. I want to work on side hustles. I want to do a little bit of everything, and have people speak highly about myself too as well. And I want to touch people's lives in that manner where, if something happened to me where people are saying the same things about Jordan Smith,
Amen. We'll make it happen. So Jordan,
hopefully not. Hopefully we won't make it happen. I hope to live for a very long time. I know it's very times with the coronavirus, but hopefully I'll be out here for a while.
Jordan, who are people to follow in the sports world? Who's making noise right now? Who are the people that you recommend I follow on Twitter and YouTube? And who's a real influencer in the space?
A real influencer, man, that's a good question. I know this guy's not just sports, but I love following Gary
V. Same.
Gary Vaynerchuk, he gives you advice every single morning that gets you up and you're like, yes, I'm ready for the day. I am motivated, ready to go. And he's a big time sports fan. He's always talking about the Jets, and he has his own sports agency too as well. So I love following him and getting some insight from that. Then also, Jay-Z, I love following Jay-Z. Like, Jay-Z is my role model, man. Like,
really?
I like everything. One, he's dating Queen Bee, which is great. Or not dating, married to Queen Bee, and has beautiful children, So I would love that lifestyle. But also, everything that he's done with Rock Nation, that's what I want to do, Not necessarily in the music side, but I want to build a sports agency empire down the road where I'm doing the same things with Jay-Z, interacting with athletes and artists and running their brand management, getting them different sponsorship deals and kind of taking over. And seeing a guy that just started with music and just take over his business empire with everything with Rock Nation, it's pretty incredible. So I look up to that dude. He's pretty powerful. Then another one is Maverick Carter. Maverick Carter is great. He's LeBron James's not agent, but he's his manager essentially. So he's his boy from all the way back in the day, and he built his way all the way up to the top where he's crushing it and doing big things with LeBron. And so I look up to that guy, and then his sports agency too that he's running. And it's just hey, I want to be that guy, So I would say those are all some good dudes to follow for sure.
Let's talk about women in sports.
Absolutely.
What's something that's new going on in the industry for women in sports? I know there was recently in the news how the WNBA was having issues with their pay, saying that they weren't getting paid as well as NBA players. Is that still at the top of the news channel?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's at the top, but it's still a big time issue. I know the Olympics aren't happening this year, but I just want to use U.S. women's soccer as an example. They are literally on top when it comes to U.S. national team sports for any type of sport. They crush it every year. Obviously, they won the World Cup the last 2 years, and the fact that they're not getting paid on the same equal level as the men's national team, who didn't even make the World Cup last time, it's a big issue, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And I think they as a whole has made a huge impact on the country in general. Girls that are playing soccer that are kids, I talked about my Craig Biggio story. The U.S. women's soccer team is doing that for so many more girls that are growing up and want to be soccer players. They have a huge impact on the world. And I think they've made a greater impact on the growth of soccer in the United States too, where even, guys like myself, I love watching the U.S. women's team played, especially during the World Cup, and
Mm-hmm.
would have been the Olympics this year. Like for me, like even in FIFA nowadays, I was playing FIFA the other day, and I was playing with the U.S. women's national team, and it was great. They're
Mm-hmm.
great. They're fun to play with. So I think it's something that they've made some good steps in the right direction. I know there's a new U.S. soccer president. I forget his name, but hopefully within the next year or so that they'll start getting closer to equal pay, because they've had a huge impact in the world. And it's similar,
Mm-hmm.
kind of related to like paying college athletes, where it's like, hey, these college athletes have made so much money for your university, but for U.S. women's team, like they've made so much money for the country and had a big impact on the world, where they deserve to get paid. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's similar to that. And then I know the WNBA is working on it too. I think they raised the average salary to for each player. So there's definitely steps in the right direction for sure. But I think it's an
Mm-hmm.
issue that will continue to be evident, and I hope it gets resolved soon for sure.
All right, so before I let you go, give me your hot take on what are the best teams right now in the NBA, NFL, MLB.
Ah, man, I got to think of it since there hasn't been sports for about a month.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. So I'll start with NFL. I want to say the Texans, but I'm pretty angry with them right now. Uh, I
Why?
still, I still haven't forgiven them. They traded my homie. He's not my actual homie, but like I want to be friends with him. But DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's a 26-year-old receiver that's one of the best receivers in the league, and we traded him away for second round pick essentially. So I wasn't a big fan of that. But
Yeah.
long story short, NFL, I'm gonna have to go with. I mean, the Super Bowl champs, like the Chiefs, like they're
Mm-hmm.
on top. They got the young quarterback. They got the young receiver and Tyreek Hill. They got a great defense. So they're the team to beat. So yeah, like you gotta go after them for sure. And then NBA, I know we talked a lot about the about Kobe and the Lakers. I think it's meant for them to win the title this year. I hate saying it because I want the Rockets to win it all, but hey,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're the team to beat, and I think they're on a mission, especially after Kobe died, to win one for Kobe this year. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens with that. And then MLB, I mean, trash cans or no trash cans, I'm still going to roll with my Astros. I think they're still a team to beat. They're going to have an extra chip on the shoulder this year, where I think teams are they're going to want to try to beat them, but at the same time, we're going to want to beat them even more, because we're getting a lot of hate and a lot of scrutiny and a lot of hate in the world towards the Astros that's going on. So I mean, I think they're going to have that chip on the shoulder where they're going to want to beat everyone. So hopefully it happens. Hopefully the season happens where they can do that. But the one thing that's been nice is that with the virus, I mean, before the virus happened, everybody was talking trash about the Astros
Mm-hmm.
on social media. But now people have kind of taken that back and forgotten about the whole cheating scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
at least it's kind of in the past for sure. But it should
Love
be
it.
interesting. Yeah, man. But how about you, man? How have you been, man? I want to hear more about everything you're doing. Because you guys have shifted to online events. Like, I think it's something you guys can dominate in this world right now. You got to be innovative with it. But like, I've been going on virtual happy hours, but like you can do virtual happy hours with Forage Group. There's a lot of cool things you can do.
There
How's
really are.
everything been with
There's
that?
there's Meetup, there's Eventbrite. Those are the two main platforms where people can find online events.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's so many events that are happening online right now. When you scroll on LinkedIn, every other post is someone hosting a webinar or workshop. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to pivot Forge to be the platform where people can browse on Forge and find all of these online events in like a one-stop shop. And
Yeah.
so similar to Eventbrite and similar to Meetup, but at the end of the day, Forge is a platform where companies generate leads by hiring freelancers to attend events on their behalf. And
Okay.
so even though there are no in-person events happening right now, I'm trying to use online events as a top of funnel brand awareness strategy to get people to know about what the hell Forge is. And so once the coronavirus goes away and there's so many people that are unemployed or looking for a side hustle, and
Mm-hmm.
companies are looking to distribute their teams and leverage the gig economy, that Forge can be the go-to platform where companies can outsource their sales teams and outsource business development, event attendance to independent contractors who can learn their company's product or service and attend the event on the company's behalf to generate leads and sales opportunities. And so I see Forge as like a platform that will play a role in the world 2.0 post coronavirus, where everything's going to be remote and the independent freelancer the independent contractor, the freelancer industry is going to be much more here to stay than it has been in the last few years. Even though it's already been on a trend of the gig economy is here to come. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to position, but it's hard, you know. Meetup is huge. Eventbrite's huge. And it's hard to like try and wiggle myself in there as like this tiny little startup compared to these huge $100 millions in revenue businesses, public companies. And but you know, as I had on a podcast, it said as long as you focus on the one thing and put one brick on top of the other, eventually you'll build your castle. So I just got to focus on what's the next brick to lay.
Yeah, no, definitely. I couldn't agree more with that. And I think once all this clears up, there's going to be that itch for people to go out there and network in person, you know, especially from the build up with the online events too, as well, where it's gonna take off. Similar to sports, where there's going to be an itch to go to a sporting event. But
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, I hate saying this, but I think the virus could be a blessing in disguise for a lot of people. Where being quarantined, they have the ability to focus on themselves,
Mm-hmm.
work on some side hustles, work on some projects that they've been thinking about in the past, or like, let's say if they had a business idea, they can write their business plan. For
Totally.
me, I know I've been focusing on my downtime. Like I've been working on some side hustles. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have Chopped and Food. It's an Instagram blog where like I just been promoting and doing different posts about restaurants throughout the Houston area. Almost at 3,000 followers, so it's been growing.
Nice. Awesome.
Started about a year and a half ago, so that's my baby, and I love interacting with different chefs in the
Mm-hmm.
Houston community through it. And then I also have my podcast myself. It's called Welcome to Houston. And through this time, I know you've been cranking out podcast episodes, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to as well. And I've been encouraging anybody that has thought about getting into media and making their own
Yeah.
podcast. Now's the time to do it. Like you're sitting on your couch, like
Totally.
get excited. Do
Yeah.
something you've been talking about for
I
a long time.
I
So it's a
started
great
the
opportunity.
podcast because
Yeah.
of Gary Vee saying, "Hey, you got to think of your company as a media company. If you're not in front of people, you're non-existent. You're not relevant. So you got to think of your company not as a tech platform, but as a
Mm-hmm.
media business." And that really sparked a fire under my ass to create this podcast. It's so
Yeah.
easy to just call people that you respect and hop on a call, just like we're doing right now, and get your name out there. I love
Yeah.
Gary Vee. I'm so happy you brought him up. So many people I feel like hate on Gary Vee just because they don't know him, and honestly, they don't like him because he calls them out.
Yeah.
They don't want to get people don't want to get called out, and
Yeah.
so they avoid the hard truth.
Yeah. I
And,
mean, I think Gary Vee, the greatest part about him is like he blocks out the haters. Like he doesn't care
mm,
what people say about him.
mm,
That's something that a lot of people need to, if they want to be successful, they got to focus on themselves and not
yeah.
like, what people are saying, you got to follow what you want to do, what you're passionate
Mm-hmm.
about.
Yeah.
For me, like my whole family, I mean, minus my mom, they work in finance, like my
Mm-hmm.
dad, he's got his own company. My brother works for my dad. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like, yes, I could go work for Smith Graham and Company, but I'm not really passionate about that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
passionate about sports, and I've always wanted to work in the sports industry. So I took a different path, and like I'm happy with it. I go to work every day, and I'm excited. It's like, hey, I get to do this project today. Where if I was
Mm-hmm.
behind a computer doing a job that I didn't like I think
Yeah.
it'd be different. So I
Mm-hmm.
think Gary Vee would say the same thing in that manner. And
I feel like we have a
one.
similar background in that. Like, I also could have worked at a bank, but I didn't want to because it just wasn't who I thought I was. And your
Yeah,
dad owns a bank, and you could work at a firm with your brother and have an industry in the finance career, but you don't want to either.
yeah,
You're pursuing your passions. I'm sure
yeah.
like Gary Vee would salute you. You know?
Yeah, man, I would love to have a talk with Gary Vee. It's crazy. My old job, I worked for ESPN Radio, and he called in one time because one of the hosts, he tweeted at Gary Vee saying like, hey, we'd love for you to come on. He responded to the tweet and he chimed in for a segment. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
That just shows how good of a person Gary Vee is and how
Mhm.
you can't be scared to hit someone up that you don't know on social media. You
Yeah.
never know. Like just that return or that tweet back, like it can make you an advocate or a follower of that person for life. So I
Yeah.
think there's some big things to that. So salute to Gary Vee for sure. I hope you get to buy the New York Jets sometime, Gary Vee.
Yeah. 100%. I want
I
to
would
go back to your point of like hopefully when the coronavirus ends, people will be going back to sporting events and in-person events because both of our businesses rely on that. But I'm
absolutely.
like nervous to recognize the fact that that might not happen. Maybe the world will forever be changed where people I doubt that, but at least for like maybe even 12 months where people are not going to be going out shaking hands and
Yeah.
being in these like public spaces. It could, and like I don't have the runway to last that long. So I'm going to have to either figure out a way to generate revenue or raise capital the VC way. And it's scary to think like, holy shit, I don't have over 12 months of runway ahead of me, and I'm not, and my business is screwed unless the world goes back to normal, or unless this is the new normal and we're all going to have to adapt.
Yeah, and I mean, I hear you. Like I said earlier, like working in sports sponsorship sales, if it's like this for 12 months, no one's going to be going to the games and seeing these, the sponsorship deals or partnership deals that we've been putting together. So it's definitely a gamble, but I mean, I think we just got to be optimistic and make the best of it. And it's definitely different times, but the more we adjust to it and kind of create innovative ideas around what's going on, I think the more we'll thrive, because people at the end of the day, you got to know that everybody's going through this.
Yeah,
all
100%.
industries for the most part are going through the same thing. So I think if we all interact and communicate together as a community, it can go a long way where we get through this, and people will be successful and even better, once it's all ends. So I'm optimistic about it, definitely.
Me too.
I can't wait till it gets back to normal for sure.
Yeah. All right, Jordan. Awesome having you on the podcast.
Yeah,
Great
man, it's
seeing
great
you.
catching
Great
up.
catching up. 100%.
Yeah,
Jordan and I are boys from high school.
Yeah, man.
And
back in the day, man, the SFL days, we've been going since middle school.
Yeah, we won championships.
Yeah, 7th grade champs. Let's go. Longhorns, shout out.
Awesome, Jordan. Thanks so much for the time. Great seeing you.
Yeah, man. Great seeing you too as well. Then I look forward to staying in touch. And then, I'll be up in Manhattan once all this clears up. So we'll got to connect and grab some beers and have a good time. Then I want to go. I can't wait to attend an event. Are you going to be having some events once everything clears up in Houston?
Yeah, 100%.
You got to go back to the hometown. So let me know, man. I want to be
I will do.
Promote it, man. I mean, because at the end of the day, like me being in sales too as well, like you're not going to go anywhere unless you network. You can't be scared to network, reach out to people, even if you don't know them. So that's my biggest advice closing out on the podcast. Say it.
Yeah.
Whether it's online or in person, go network. Like, go network. Don't be scared, because you're not going to go anywhere unless you reach out and find new connections, because connections will take you a long way in this industry. So,
amen.
Stay blessed and network for sure.
Well
stay safe. Wash your hands.
Yeah. All right. See you, Jordan.
All right. See you, Benji. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Compton food, and welcome to Houston. I'm going to throw a shameless plug in as well.
Bye.
Good times. All right. Have a good one, Benji.
See you, Jordan.